What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks NBA coming your way. 11 games. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. I've been up for 12 hours now here. Got up at 6. Getting ready to rock here. Obviously, I'm recording this right around 9 p.m. Eastern time. Just after that here, football game is going. Ezekiel Elliott just scored a touchdown. What a time to be alive in the NFL streets. But we are, of course, talking about the NBA, the NFL. Kansas City giving up that touchdown at the end of the game. Useless stuff. I mean, just painful to knock that lock out of there. But we'd been on a really good lock streak. And then, well, that one doesn't come to fruition. Kansas City in the NFL side. And of course, our guy, Santi Aldama, takes two shots on Friday. So there's some variance that's going to occur in early season NBA, but 2-1 on the NBA locks to start off the season. Both of those being spreads that were not remotely sweatable. So there's that. I suppose it was coming back in some direction, but we got 11 games. I have no locks on the card as of right now. That can definitely change because there's tons of news up in the air. We've got questionable tags existing all over the place already. Feels like a mid-season slate here with a massive number of games, injury news pending, books hanging some stale lines. I think we're going to want to be early to the party. So if you guys want to join that party, we've got it going right now with Lindy's Tales package. That is where you can find me. Normally it would be on my TV behind me, but AirPlay hates me. So try Eric's Tales package for free. If you guys want to try it out for free, you've got Underdog, Vivid, Pick Six, Better, and Sleeper on the left side of the screen, all the pick'em sites. On the right side, FanDuel, BetMGM, DraftKings, Caesars, Bet365 on the right side of the screen. And then Rebet, kind of a blend of the both. 47 out of 50 states that is available in. Tons of ways that you can get exposure to that Tails package for free. $50 free whenever you sign up at one of those spots. Alrighty, y'all. With that said, we also have a Lindy 5-0 that is going until November 1st. Till November 1st, that is. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've got enough dilly-dallying here on the onset. Producer Jacob, hi, hello. Happy Monday. Let's get to the picks. It's only going to be a happy Monday if I win some frickin' money. Indy, plus 5.5 taking on Orlando here in this spot. The main thing, we have back-to-backs that are going to start being a major conversation piece, especially early in the season, because I've gone back, I've looked at a lot of data on this. And early season, I mean, it's not like these guys were sitting on the couch, but they get ramped up slowly. You see preseason minutes going from 20 to 28 to 30 or something in that nature. And then the regular season starts and you see 34, 35 minutes for these guys. Well, this is a big deal when you have a team like Indy that ended up playing an overtime basketball game. If you saw that today, Tyrese Halliburton hit an absolute miracle bucket there at the buzzer that ends up taking them to the overtime frame. They end up losing to Philly in overtime at home anyway. But the whole point of the story here is that 5.5 points, that's not a lot going into Orlando, who didn't have to play basketball on Sunday. So we're going to look at some rest on some of these spots. It's factored in to some extent because I would have this closer to like 7.5. But again, I thought we were going to get like 4.5 on the opening line for this one. And I was looking to really, really hawk this and potentially make this a lock. Alas, 5.5 ends up being our opening number here. And Orlando, early on, one of the best defensive teams in basketball. We completely expected that. You pick up KCP. You have a number of guys, Jalen Suggs, who just got paid. You have Paulo Banchero. You have one of the better wing players in all of basketball in Franz Wagner. And Wendell Carter Jr. starting to show out and play a little bit of ball here too. Didn't even shoot the ball particularly well last time out. Looked okay against Memphis still to me. I know that they ended up losing that game. I was surprised to see John Morant playing. I was surprised to see that. We'll talk about it coming up here later. But I like Orlando laying the points here. Again, early season back-to-backs better than mid-season back-to-backs. Again, there is data to support it. And that being said, we're also going to have to take certain things with a grain of salt because, hey, Atlanta's on a back-to-back, Eric. Yeah. Well, DeAndre Hunter didn't end up playing. I don't know if he ends up playing here in this spot. Well, I'm talking about Sunday, of course. But Washington, the worst basketball team on planet Earth right now. Well, in the National Basketball Association, they're still way better than, I don't know, they'd probably beat half the teams in China right now. God, Washington's terrible. Have you watched any Washington basketball? That lock with Boston going up against them, it was everything I wanted it to be and more. Jordan Poole comes out of the gate, knocks down threes incessantly, starts just getting in the face of everybody. And you know what? They get run off the floor, sent out on a rail because Peyton Pritchard is out there being like, oh yeah, I'm actually an effective, good basketball player because I can kind of guard my position, Jordan Poole, whereas You can't. Now, Alex Sarr, we're talking about Alex Sarr, not Olivia Osar, which is his brother. But anyway, we've got Atlanta here on the other side. DeAndre Hunter, that's a piece of news sitting there, but it's a back-to-back. I still don't feel comfortable laying 7.5 here with Atlanta. I ran the numbers a number of times, and I probably should. Oh, is Deebo Samuel going to score? Is Deebo Samuel going to score? We're going to see. We'll see if that flags on them or not. Oh, yeah, here's the thing, is that we're talking about NBA, but this game also lost my attention. There's no winners in this game. There are no winners when Washington is playing Atlanta right now, or a month from now, or 4 months from now. There are no winners in this game. So let's talk more bettable things, shall we? Yeah, this is going to go into the lean-like category because I just talked about it. Milwaukee, they're on a back-to-back here Sunday to Monday, and we have just so many of these spots, and I don't want to just, like, completely beat these to your... I could talk about this with a majority of games, and that's what we're going to do throughout this entire program, but it matters so much early season because you could potentially get a punt spot early on for Giannis and Damian Lillard here. Would it surprise you or me or anybody if Milwaukee just said, oh yeah, we're 9.5-point dogs. We have no bench. We are just going to sit here, watch the game. Oh, we're a little bit tired. It's early season NBA. Oh, yeah, I'm sore. I can't play. That's something that can legitimately happen here. And I'm more inclined to think that it will happen. Now, I'm going to make this a lean-like because I'm not so convinced. The NBA is cracking down on this type of stuff. They're resting. Joel Embiid is getting taken a look at every 5 which ways because, well, you can't just rest your best player and not play him during the regular season and try to get championship equity come year's end. But I will say I really want to fire Boston minus 9.5. Pay attention to news. This is one that I could wake up in the morning. It wouldn't shock me to see this at 10.5, 11.5, 12.5. If you have no Giannis and no Dame, this would be closer to like 16.5. So I'm just saying, there are lots of things that you want to be paying attention to news on. This has to be at the top of your priority. Whenever a team plays Boston, there's such incentive for them to just punt their best players if it's a team that should be competitive later down the line, like Milwaukee. So I'm not going to bet it as of right now, but I really, really want to. That is up to you. If you're risk averse, don't do it. Well, I'm not really risk averse. I like risk. But anyway, Risk is a great board game too. And Bet365 is a great sports book. Bet $5, get $200 there right now at the link below. Tons of states where you can sign up. You can get yourself a lot of dollars. Oh, here, what are all the states, producer Jacob? Bam, tough actin, Tenactin, Colorado, Louisiana, Virginia, Kentucky, New Jersey, Arizona, Ohio, Iowa, Indiana, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. By the way, fun talent that I've never really displayed here on these shows. I can do all 50 states in order in less than 30 seconds. Alphabetically. I really can. Is that special? I don't know if that's special or not. Is that special, producer Jacob, or not?
Do it right now.
Can you do it?
Do it right now.
Do it right now? You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You get triple stamp a double stamp. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. Not all of those states have Bet365, but these 11 do, including North Carolina. Come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter. Only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the picks we go. Bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets. Well, that was fun. Detroit, +8, taking on Miami here in this spot. And gotta say, one of my favorite plays of the entire day. I considered locking this, but people really don't like when I lock plus money stuff. They really, really don't like it. And plus, I only bet $50 on this from the onset, but I feel like it's pretty darn sharp because I was splitting time between Arizona, going back and forth here this weekend. So I have some Bet365 exposure, and Detroit +8, Miami. Bam Adebayo, let's have a discussion because I've seen this all over X for the last couple of days. And I've just been waiting to dip my toes into the water because you know what happens when something doesn't hit for the first 2 times out, and it's something as variable as a 3-point shooting guy who isn't normally a 3-point shooter? People stop betting it, or the line moves in such an egregious way because it's responding to results. And you know what? Sometimes results are too loud on a 2-game sample size, but I'm going to dip my toes into this pool because Bet365 has this listed at plus 200. I had to bet $50 on it immediately. It's at plus 190 on BetMGM. What am I talking about? Bam Adebayo, 3-pointers. Now, game one for Miami, they got waxed, got completely embarrassed by Orlando at home. Bam Adebayo still attempted 2 threes in 26 minutes. They then take on Charlotte there, clear 33 minutes, take down a dub there. Over 2 from 3 for Bam Adebayo. He's now 0 for 4 here on the season. 3 of those were competent 3-pointers. One of them was not a very competent one, but we're going to see Bam Adebayo take threes here in the year of our Lord 2024 and then into 2025. He worked on it post-Olympics, said he wanted to add it to his arsenal, went back and looked at a lot of different footage. Looks okay. Looks like he'll be making a couple of shots. And against true centers like Jared Dern, who want to be closer to the basket, I think they're going to let him. They're going to let him shoot 1, 2, maybe 3 threes, and you're getting plus 200 on this kind of a number. These are the spots. I didn't bet at the first 2. I was waiting, and now I think we pounce. Plus 200. It was plus 140 on opening night. Got bet down to plus 135. So just saying. I want to pull the trigger here, but it's really, really hard when you're talking about front courts taking on Cleveland. 2.5-point dogs actually going into New York. Karl-Anthony Towns, he has the misfortune, if you will, of taking on the best front court in the NBA defensively. That is Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, because both of them are psychopaths on the defensive end. Both of them just ridiculous kind of stuff. I mean, in terms of adjusted defensive rating, they're only 6th now through 3 games, but they're 3-0. And they're 2.5-point dogs going into New York. That's just 1-1 here in this spot. But New York, we're seeing them play pretty flat offensively still. And I think that there's a lot of room for them to grow. 222 total here. Again, it's just a 2-game sample size. It was flat against Boston, as one might expect. I saw a lot of sharp people here on this Karl-Anthony Towns type props, and I did some rerunning here because 24 and then 32 minutes. They've played 2 complete blowouts. We haven't seen the Tom Thibodeau effect really kick in on any of these starters, but they've still kind of nuked these lines against a very solid front court. I'm still leaning towards over 32.5 points plus rebounds for Karl-Anthony Towns because I'm expecting 36, 38 minutes in competitive spots. We just haven't had a competitive spot, and this projects out to be, but it's really hard because I'm waiting for that one close game where I can project New York Knicks minutes a little bit tighter going forward because I don't know McBride. I don't know how they're going to utilize him in like a closing lineup in a game that matters because Josh Hart, well, he's your de facto starter. You need him out there for rebounding. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges you need out there defensively. I'm very curious how Tibbs is going to be running things out there, but there's no doubt Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be out there as much as possible with Mitchell Robinson on the shelf for potentially the entire season. Precious Achiuwa on the shelf for 2 to 4 weeks with this hamstring injury. So wait for it. Don't think I'm going to pull the trigger here, but Knicks, these are props that I really want to be bullish on, but kind of hoping this game blows out. We just pass it all together, and then we can buy against a better, less defensively forward team like Cleveland. Ow. I really banged my elbow really, really hard, and it hurts. Ow. It's kind of like Denver's bench. It's painful. Denver, 7.5-point dogs going up against Toronto. Let me work it out. Yeah, we're not going to do this on camera. Anyway, Denver minus 7.5 going up against Toronto. I repeat, Julian Strawther, somebody that has to play like important minutes off the bench here. Christian Brown's playing a ton now. A ton. I mean, I did not think it was going to be this bad off the bench, but Jamal Murray continues to disappoint in my eyes. I mean, 22, 5, and 2. He's gone under his PRA now in the first 2 by a pretty considerable, well, no, only by 1 in the last game, but pretty considerable margin, 12, 4, and 6 against Oklahoma City, taking on the Clippers. Obviously, this is a Toronto team that Denver should be able to handle. And yet, I find it really hard to believe that Mr. Malone wants to be putting Mr. Nikola Jokic out there for like 38 minutes a night early on in this season. He's played him 35 and 37 in 2 losing efforts. Lost by 15 to Oklahoma City opening night, lost by 5 to the Clippers. Denver's schedule's been pretty loosey-goosey here to start off the season too. Not necessarily in terms of opposition, because Oklahoma City we expect to be like the best or top 3 for sure in the West. But we also look at Denver as one of those teams that should be there with the best player in basketball. And this just gets dicey. It gets really, really dicey. Now, knowing that they're 0-2, I think there's probably more leash for us to be going towards those 36, 38 minutes for Jokic in this spot if things get close. And that has me leaning Denver minus 7.5. But I threw it out there opening night. I'm going to say it again. Denver's bench, potentially the worst in all of basketball. And I do like Strother. I do think Russell Westbrook, oh, God. If you watched him play, he was the worst basketball player in the NBA against the Clippers. He was out there trying to strike vengeance against his former team. And you know, his former team tried to allow it because it's like, yo, you're 0 for 8. You're taking threes. And what is going on? Russell Westbrook, chill out, bro. Just play defense. Try really, really hard. And don't shoot threes ever. That's really the moral of this. All right, we got another play here. Chicago taking on Memphis. And sometimes stats can be really, really noisy in the early portion of a season, and I don't know what to make of this because there are changing faces. We have DeMar DeRozan now in Sacramento. We add Josh Giddey to the fray, not the band. I always have to refrain. Everyone knows I'm in over my head. That was a banger, by the way. And then they had Where Were You? Where Were You? That was like from the Lost soundtrack, which is like my favorite show of all time, but oh, you don't give a fuck? Okay, fine. Anyway, Chicago, we're definitely looking at some number of pieces on this side that I think from a prop perspective are advantageous. Kobe White, we took some unders there early on. That under against the Pelicans worked out really, really nicely. Didn't fire it up against Milwaukee, which was useful. 35 points he ended up going for in that one, 7 for 13. He's had 2 games where he's gone 0 for 5 and 0 for 9 from 3. And then that Milwaukee game where he goes 7 for 13 from 3. And Milwaukee, it's weird. For the last couple of years, depending on who the personnel it is, I mean, Giannis is kind of the common link there, but they've had some weird numbers in terms of three-point shooting. Teams have always shot it well from outside against them relative to the rest of the NBA. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition against Memphis, but what it was very nice to see was Jaren Jackson suit up. Even though it was only 23 minutes against Orlando, it was great to see him back. He does have a hamstring injury. I don't think those minutes are going to get pushed crazy by any means, but let's talk about what I'm really getting at here. Pace. Chicago is number 1 in the NBA through the first 3 games they've played. They're at 110.7 possessions per 48 minutes. For context, you go back to 2024's numbers and you look at Indy, 102.1 possessions per 48 minutes. We're talking a crazy breakneck speed for Chicago here at the moment. So I still don't believe it entirely, and we have some major injury news on the Memphis side. Specifically, Ja Morant questionable for a second straight game. He played through it against Orlando. He only played 25 minutes, though. He's played 28, 24, and 25 minutes. They've won 2 of those 3. They're being very cautious with his minutes as well as Jaren Jackson's. Desmond Bane not really eating up the usage. Zach Edey's been okay in limited sample size, and Marcus Smart, sometimes you forget he's on this team, and then you obnoxiously see him screaming at an official every freaking possession when you're looking at NBA League Pass. Welcome back, friends. We're there. But I like the under of 233.5. This Memphis team with Jaren Jackson Jr. out there, so much better defensively. You have a number of guys. Marcus Smart back here, so much better defensively. I'm a little surprised to see this one, and you get the chance of having Ja Morant be out for this. Yes, Scottie Pippen Jr. has been electric, boogie, woogie, woogie in the early portion of this season, but still, I don't believe that this pace is sustainable for Chicago. And then you go to the Memphis side of things and you take Ja Morant off the floor. Yeah, so far they've been 3rd in pace in the NBA, but without Ja Morant on the floor, about 3 possessions per 48 minutes slower. Give me the under of 233.5. Now we go to Houston and San Antonio, and I'm a little nervous about this one, and that's why it's a lean at the moment. I almost pulled the trigger. You know, when you pull that bet slip up and you start rerunning your numbers and you're looking at your sheet and it says 2.8% expected ROI, and you're just like, oh, well, I obviously have to bet that. Oh, well, I have that experience. That's what I had this experience with this. And then I just said, I'm going to bypass because historical data, he's been sitting at 5.5 for this number. What is this number? Steals plus blocks. We're going to talk Houston, -3 San Antonio here. Alperen Sengun been awesome in the early portion of the season. But I'm talking about Victor Wembanyama, of course, because who else would have a 4.5 blocks plus steals prop early on in this season? Because these are just insane numbers we've never really seen before. And one thing I do think is that the NBA didn't know how to treat Victor Wembanyama in the early portion of last year, but I think coaches are smart enough to know we're not going to go in for like bunny layups against Victor Wembanyama anymore because it's going to get sent 58,000 feet into the shadow realm, or just the first row. The rich seats, the courtside people, the Jack Nicholson seats. Yeah, anyway, what I'm getting at is that plus 100 here on the under for Victor Wembanyama. Steals plus blocks are really, really good here. Minutes, 28 and 30 for Victor Wembanyama. They've been cautious. I mean, it's one of those things where you really do. Pop wants to be cautious with Victor Wembanyama. He did play over the Summer Olympics. He's coming off of a rookie season. He's a big, big individual where I'm sure injury risk is something that is high on their radar. They have Devin Vassell on the shelf still. Trey Jones is still on the shelf. I don't know. I can't say the word shelf. Shelf. I'm so shellfish. I love shellfish. That was an awkward transition. Utah plus 11 taking on Dallas. Oh my dear sweet Lord, Utah. What are you doing? Because you're breaking my model in terms of how bad you are at the moment. Why? Why did they get so bad here all of a sudden? Minus 5.1 adjusted net rating. That's 26th in my modeling. That's 27th in dunks and threes modeling. I go through, and there are only 3 teams I have ranked worse. Well, actually 4. No, 3 teams for me, 4 for dunks and threes. I have Washington, which is by far the worst team in the NBA. Brooklyn, which is not far behind. And then Toronto. Dunks and threes has Detroit. I know Detroit's 0-3, but I do think they're going to be better than that going forward. Cade Cunningham's just living in purgatory, but I'm very interested in something that's going to potentially be plus money just because the minutes are not so uncertain in this game. We've got Utah, we've got Dallas. Luka Doncic looking at the height of his powers. Lauri Markkanen looking to get out of Utah, I'm sure at this point, unless he really likes Mormon chicks, but I don't think that's a thing. He's an Arizona boy. They like to party. I don't know, Mormon chicks like to party, don't they? I don't know, just drinking Diet Coke. But Derek Lively, we're going to talk Derek Lively here going up against Daniel Gafford. If he's going to be plus money, which he's going to be here in this spot, you got to like it because he's outperformed Daniel Gafford in last year's playoffs and early on in this season. He's just been way, way better between the two. And in fact, I'm a little disappointed to see only 21 minutes for Derek Lively against the Suns. If they had made way for him earlier as opposed to going to Gafford for 18 minutes there in the early portion and getting way behind and letting his plus minus go off the chart, we would have had Derek Lively on the floor for a lot more minutes. In fact, in that more competitive spot, we saw 28 minutes, the lion's share of minutes, and closing lineup duty for Derek Lively. So you give me 26, 28 minutes in a close competitive spot, which obviously this isn't going to be, but I think there's chances he also closes blowouts for Dallas. Now, when I'm saying against Dallas, obviously they needed more three-point shooting on the floor. They tried to play catch-up. They tried to do other things, but it was a little too late, a little too wrong, and I can't wait. Derek Lively, I think double-double. Lean like. I haven't bet it yet, but we're waiting for numbers. I think we might be getting some nice plus money on this one tomorrow. LA and Phoenix, plus 2.5, going up against Phoenix. We're running this one back again. Cool. So we at least have a sample size of the same team playing the same team, which is kind of useful this time of year, mainly because I don't always know what the rotations are now. Do people feel better now that I've said, take Bronny James overs on points? Because they've been voided the last couple for the Lakers. I mean, that's kind of useful, right? Now, the unders got voided too the last 2, but I want to let it be known there's going to be eventually a chance. He's going to go to the G League. He's going to be going back and forth. But my whole point is that if you're going to have Bronny James props be this popular, you should only be betting the over if it's juiced minus 130, minus 440, because, well, it's going to get voided a majority of the time. And if he falls into a situation where he gets fouled or something happens, you have to understand that 3-4 minutes of an NBA player being out there or in a spot where hey, we want to just get him his first bucket, or we're getting blown out and we get into a blowout situation in the last 8 minutes, which hasn't happened for a Lakers game yet, but it will eventually. Those are all going to be more advantageous spots for Bronny James than anything that's happened early on for the Lakers, which is just competitive game after competitive game. Now, they ended up winning by 7 against Phoenix in that last time out. Austin Reeves was God. 26 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. I'm not the person who looks at last couple. You've probably never heard me talk about trends because I just don't. I care about what are the projected minutes for today? What are the circumstances today? And what can Phoenix change that they potentially didn't in the last game? And that is where I think we could really, really run into some issues here, because Bradley Beal, he played against the Lakers 35 minutes, but he got to rest last time out. And it is an elbow injury for him. There's always an injury with Bradley Beal. That's kind of the way that the cookie crumbles. But One thing I think they're going to do against the Lakers is play more Royce O'Neal minutes. They had him out there for 28. I could see him playing 30, 32 in a lot of circumstances because they need him to body up LeBron James. They need him to body up Rui Hachimura. And this guy defensively is so much better. They don't have a lot of size if they're going to be going Beal, Allen, Jones on the floor, Monty Morris, who's been playing very limited minutes for them, like low teens minutes. I think that's one guy to pay attention to his props where like you could see Royce O'Neal minutes really ramped up, especially if Bradley Beal ends up being out for this one, but I expect him back for it. Just saying, I'm going Lakers plus 2.5, but I think prop interest is going to be mainly what I'm looking at here. Understand that whatever happened in the last game will not exactly happen in this game, but teams can make adjustments. They're allowed to. And I think one of the main adjustments for Phoenix is getting more wing play out there, even though they're very thin at the position. Getting some help on LeBron. Royce O'Neal could be that guy. And everything I said about back-to-backs, well, comes back to fruition here. Portland plus 12.5 going up against Sacramento. Portland, they're on a back-to-back, Eric. Of course we're going to be on the Sacramento side, right? Well, wrong, because I don't really agree with Sacramento getting 12.5 ever. Fire up the beam, they say. Fire up the beam. Well, the beam needs to have better basketball players playing for it from time to time, don't you think? It's like, Ray. No, that's a different song. DeMar DeRozan, this was not the right acquisition for them at the deadline. He played 43 minutes, 37 minutes. Hey, Eric, he's averaging 24.5 points per game. He's shooting a pretty decent number, 53.3% from the field, 40% from three. Guess what? It still is minutes that can go to a younger player that you can develop and have a higher ceiling on and not take so much money in. And you can help at a position that is more useful to you. Have somebody who can be on ball and be a predominant three-point shooter. Because one thing with DeMar DeRozan is that, while he's shooting 40% from three, he's taken all of 5 in 80 minutes for Sacramento. That makes me kind of miss Harrison Barnes here for Sacramento, which is just a wild thing to say because you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Domantas Sabonis, and both of these guys, they're great when they can be on ball, but off ball, running around, running circles, doing whatever. There's no question. This team's 0-2 for a reason. Now, they get a great break here taking on Portland, where Portland's on a back-to-back. They end up winning their first basketball game of the entire season up against New Orleans, but now their third game out of the gate. I do think this is kind of an interesting one. Wait, did New Orleans end up coming back and winning that game? No, it's 125-103. I thought I looked at that correctly, but they played previous. They had like a back-to-back and the same thing. They're doing that home, whatever BS garbage. So yeah, they played 3 times. They played the Pelicans twice. But DeAndre Ayton, as I look at him specifically, this is a guy that on the interior should be able to get what he wants against Domantas Sabonis, who it is laughable that he was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Absolutely laughable. But the main thing I want to point out here in this game is that adjusted defensive rating, this is something that's going to look really, really bad for Sacramento as we accumulate sample size. Sacramento right now, sitting at 18th, but they've lost Davion Mitchell. He's now in Toronto. They've lost a number of, Keon Ellis, he's supposed to be a defensive piece. Keegan Murray, he can play both sides of it okay, but defensively, this team is going to be bottom half of the NBA going forward. I expect them to be 20th or worse very, very shortly. And they get 12.5 that they have to cover here. I have to go to this every single time. Give me the 12.5 on the Portland side of this one. They didn't have to get pushed very hard against New Orleans. They just kind of shot it out of the gym, found ways to be effective there. Jeremy Grant, remember that he was Jeremy Grant and is actually good at basketball. So give me the 12.5 and let's get the heck up out of here. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks in the NBA streets. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist on the board. Hey, we haven't even had a full week of NBA on the docket. What am I trying to say? On the board here yet, but very much looking forward to the next couple of days here because now we kind of see some rotations. We're kind of seeing some trends, and we're going to be able to react to some numbers early. If you want to react as early as possible, Lindy's Tales package, jump into my Discord. I'm posting around the clock. I already posted that Bam Adebayo 3 2 hours ago. So you have an opportunity to jump in, take advantage. We've got all of those pick'em sites on the left, all of the sports books on the right. If you sign up there and take advantage with these 4 simple steps, you can get yourself a free $50 value of Lindy's Locks package for the month over in Tails. So do that, and let's get the heck up out of here. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Monday.